Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I am up on a Saturday morning. And I'd like to get up early just to get my day started because I think that, getting up early is just, you get a good night's sleep, it feels good. Yesterday I was exhausted. I just got back from New York. I went to New York in part to do the Breakfast Club, which is really. I know it's one of my daughter's favorite shows. I know a lot of people like that show, and I have a lot of respect for what they've been able to accomplish with that show. And I happen to be friends with Charlemagne the God, and this goes back to when he was on Wendy Williams. And I always respected Charlemagne because Charlemagne was always really cool, even back when nobody knew who I was. I remember. After we got done with the first interview, and we had talked about, I can't remember what we talked about. I can't remember if it was 50 Cent or something. And Wendy shook my hand. Wendy was very nice. Actually, just for the record, Wendy Williams was actually the best. To this date, I think she's the best host to have ever interviewed me in terms of quality of how she asks the questions, her timing, the way she manages her guests in a certain way. And it seems ironic given that Wendy kind of has this reputation of being really hardcore on people. But make no mistake about it, she's not a dumb person. But Wendy shook my hand. And Charlamagne actually got up. Everybody gave me a hug, and I gave them both a copy of my book. My book at the time was "What If George Bush Were a Black Man," and in that book I talk about just disparities in terms of the difference in the margin of error between a black man in America versus a white male in America. For example, what happens when you're 16, 17 years old? You smoke a little weed, you get in a little trouble, you get in a bad situation. For a white male, in many cases, he can recover from that and still go on to have a normal life. For many young black men, those decisions can either be deadly or lead to lifetime incarceration. You have guys like Daryl Pageant. He's one of thousands he did a total of 20 years in prison for possession of 1 gram of crack cocaine. The only reason he got out early was he was supposed to do 40 years. The only reason he got out early was because while he was in there, he studied the law and he became a better legal expert than most attorneys, and he was actually able to fight for his own defense. So that just gives you an idea of the type of brilliant black people that are being locked away in prison. Because as I always mention, and I want you to keep in mind, black men are the most incarcerated group of human beings on the entire planet, and that really says a lot about racism in America. It's not a coincidence that the states that had the most black slaves tend to also have the most black prison inmates. And Michelle Alexander talks about that a lot in her book, The New Jim Crow. Michelle's a friend of mine, and we talked about the fact that we believe the United States should actually pay reparations not just for slavery, but also for the mass incarceration epidemic. Now, whether or not they're going to pay, we don't know. But the fact is that those are owed. Those reparations are owed. But anyway, going back to Charlemagne, so he took my book, and a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to read your book," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, okay, sure, sure, whatever," but I'm assuming they're busy and stuff like that. When I came back to that show, Charlemagne had read my book. And I was very impressed by that. And I think I was on the Wendy show like maybe 6 times. And each interview was better than the last. Some of them you might be able to find on YouTube. They were really interesting. It was like back in '06, '07. So Charlamagne and I remained cool. And I kind of followed his career. I remember talking to Wendy a week before she was about to leave radio and go to television. And we sat there for an hour. And a lot of times when you get a chance to sit with people like a Wendy Williams, the jewels of the conversation are not just on the air. It's really during the commercial breaks. And I even say that I enjoyed when I would go sit with Al Sharpton for like 4 or 5 hours at a time and co-host his radio show. This was back when Sharpton and I were cool. I can't say I'm cool with him anymore just because I don't agree with his approach to dealing with President Obama. I don't think a civil rights leader should be really working for or working on the behalf of a politician, no matter who they are, because Obama represents the imperialist, racist structure of the federal government, which to some extent has not been to the benefit of black people. So I think that Sharpton should work with Obama, but not work for Obama. But anyway, putting that aside, but just so you know, I do respect Sharpton. He's also very, very smart, like Wendy. And so through the years, I followed Charlemagne's career, and I remember when Wendy left, it seemed like Wendy kind of forgot about Charlemagne or something. I don't know. In fact, they interviewed her and asked her about him, and she was like, "Who?" just pretending like she didn't even remember this guy. And I was kind of disappointed in that because they were so close. They worked together every single day, and it just didn't make any sense to me. But Charlemagne went to Philadelphia, and Charlemagne gets in trouble. He's a little bit like Wendy. He says what's on his mind, and somehow something happened in Philadelphia. He wasn't there anymore, and then he was in South Carolina for a while, I think. And the whole time, he would call me, and I would go on his show, no matter what show he was doing, and I was always happy to do it. I don't care if the brother has two listeners. I would always do the interview because I try to be loyal to anybody who has been supportive to me in the past. And so then Charlemagne goes to New York and does the Breakfast Club, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You got a gig in New York, and I was thinking it's going to be a typical New York gig, but it turned. I mean, they just really were so intelligent with that show in terms of how they literally just leapfrogged Hot 97 and murdered them. I mean, left them in the dust. And they've created probably the most powerful urban platform in the country. When Charlemagne invited me to come on the Breakfast Club, I was looking forward to it. I was excited. I don't get to see all their interviews, but I see snippets of them and I see stuff, out there. And of course, I saw the Damon Dash interview, and I had some things to say about that. And so, just to give you an idea, I guess, of behind the scenes in terms of how it went down. When we got there, and I had been to Power 105 several times in the past. The last time I've been on there, well, actually, it was a year ago. Charlemagne interviewed me, but it was like a more of a snippet kind of interview. But then before that, Free, I don't know if you remember Free from BT 106 in Park had brought me in, and I love Free. I think Free is actually a very very smart lady, and we've talked for hours at a time, and I think I have a lot of respect for her. And so anyway, so I was back in Power again, and I remember Janelle Monae was there, and because I didn't know who she was, but I kind of said she looks familiar, and my friend said, oh, that's Janelle Monae, and we didn't get to talk much. I think I said hi to her, and she didn't say much back. I don't think she was in the mood to talk, but maybe I should have mentioned that I'm actually a good friend of mine, Vigilante, the rapper. He's out of Kansas City, in which I heard that Janelle's from Kansas City, so maybe if I'd mentioned that, we would have talked more. I don't know, but anyway, what I could say is that it was a good experience. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. I just wanted to come there and share what I know, and what I respect about the fact that they invited me. Because remember, I'm not Chris Brown, I'm not Kanye West, I'm not a rapper, I'm not an entertainer. I'm just me. I'm just Boyce Watkins, whatever that means to people, good and bad. I respected the fact that they wanted clarity on some of what Damon Dash had said. And one of the things I was determined not to do was I didn't want to just, beat Damon Dash upside the head. I just didn't feel like that would be helpful. I didn't feel like, now mind you, don't, now remember, if you know anything about stuff I said in the past, I have no problem beating somebody upside the head if they deserve it. But I think that I've just seen so many things that Damon has done that have been beneficial to the black community, as far as him just telling the truth about the entertainment industry, about racism, and he does it in his own way, but he's always trying, and you don't understand how rare that is. It's very rare when you have black people who've had a chance to make tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, who will then maintain that respect for their community, because the whole time you're getting people in your ear constantly telling you that you're limiting yourself by addressing black people. Black people, to some extent, are the economic whores of of America. And what I mean by economic whore, I mean that we're the ones that everybody comes to when they want to sell some shit. Excuse my French. I'm gonna stop cussing. Sometimes I do that, and forgive me if I do, but I'm gonna try to be more respectful. But when you want to sell something, you go to black people. When you want that economic support, you go to black people. When you want somebody to watch your television show, you go to black people. Because remember, the Fox network is now blowing up because of black people. Oprah, when Oprah's network started, Oprah had a tough time getting viewers because she was trying to create this diverse programming that everybody would watch. Oprah's network took off when she went to Tyler Perry and started pulling in black viewers. So black people are very reliable. We are the bottom bitch of the economic system when it comes to supporting what people are doing and putting money into things that other people are doing. But the reason I was saying economic whore is because when it comes time to actually reinvest in the black community by showing advocacy for the black community on important social issues, or by investing in the black community by building black institutions or giving to black organizations or whatever, a lot of celebrities, they're hands off. They walk away from that because I think that the understanding is that black people will give a lot but won't ask for a lot in return because black self-esteem is incredibly low. So if you think about someone who's relegated himself or herself to being a whore for somebody else, a lot of times a whore will give you everything but expect nothing back because they don't feel like they deserve it, right? Or that mistress or whatever. And that's kind of what we are. We are the economic whore of America. Just I mean, we're treated that way, and I think that that's problematic. And so that's why I appreciated Dame Dash. I appreciate any celebrity who truly cares about the black community, who will go out of their way to leverage their power to do something good for Black America. Because even myself, I mean, again, I'm more like a if I'm a celebrity, I'd say maybe like C list or something. I mean, I go places and people want my autograph and all that every now and then, but there's a lot of places I can go and don't nobody know who I am, don't nobody care, right? But even in my world, I'm constantly getting people who say, "Oh well, don't just talk about black people. You should talk about everybody. You should make it diverse, make it, and I understand that. I mean, I know you make a lot more money by doing stuff for everybody and trying to water it down so that white people don't get offended, and because white people have all the money, and because we are an economically imperialized group of people. White people kind of own us, and over 90, Dr. Claude Anderson talks about this all the time in Blackonomics. I think his book's called Blackonomics. I gotta look up the title. But he talks about this stuff all the time, that over 98% of black people work for white people, and that was true after slavery. I mean, it's crazy to me. We are economically imperialized. So effectively, we live in intense fear of what white people are going to think about us. Even if we didn't do anything wrong. Even if we didn't do anything, I mean, even if we are just being honest, even if we say, you know what, racism is bad and we got to fix it, and black people are owed reparations because for 400 years, our wealth has been stolen from us. White people have been allowed to get rich off of our backs, and that's why they have so much more than we have because they've given all this to their children. Just by telling fundamental truths like that, you are going to be punished. And a lot of black folks will tell you to be quiet about that because they don't want to make white people mad. And I think that's a problem. I mean, if somebody rapes your mama, and you are scared to speak up about it because you work for the person who raped your parents, or you work for the son of the person who raped your parents, that's wrong. I mean, that's wrong. And so I think that at the end of the day, and this is where I'm going with this, and I thank you for listening to me because I'm some thoughts are flooding through my brain here. I just think that we have to stop being scared. I created this new audio lecture that where people didn't like the title. In fact, when I was making it, someone said, "Oh, well, maybe the title's too limiting because you're targeting black people." And I said, "You know what? I'm not going to be ashamed of loving black people. I'm not going to be ashamed of fighting for black people. I'm not going to be ashamed of being a black man. I'm not going to be ashamed of saying that I'm a black man." Even when I did the interview, a lot of people, some people said I mentioned blackness a little too much. I'm sorry. We need to start talking about that. So the new latest audio product I created, or lecture, it's kind of a lecture idea. It's about an hour long. It's called sorry, I'm trying to remember the title. How to build your own black empire and not just bow to a white one. And one of the first comments I saw from somebody was someone who said that it's racist. And I said, well, if loving black people and building my community is racist, then fuck you. Excuse my French. I just told them, go to hell. I don't care what you think. I am going to support and love my people, and that's what I'm going to do. And okay, maybe I'll make a few $100,000 instead of tens of millions. Maybe I'll have a few million fans or a few million supporters instead of 100 million supporters. Maybe I'll never be on ABC News or NBC or CBS as hosting some show. But that's okay. I don't think that we should continuously think that we have to water ourselves down and kill our spirit and kill who we are, kill our advocacy for our community, all for the sake of assimilation. Because understand what assimilation does is it sifts away black talent. It's a brain drain. It's an economic drain because what happens is the most talented blacks. This is where integration kind of goes wrong. The most talented black people are pulled into white America. They're accepted in white America because we identify whiteness as a sign of progress. We think that being accepted by white people means that we're better people because we don't have a connection to our humanity. We don't understand the power that we were born with. We don't believe what Jesse Jackson always said, that you are somebody from the day you're born. We don't believe that. We believe that we are only somebody once we are acknowledged by our oppressor, and that is a very dangerous way to think. So effectively, I think that the black community is, based on most indicators, we're in a state of crisis economically, socially, and otherwise. Remember, no group of people gets incarcerated more than us. We should be screaming about this at the top of our lungs. Don't allow your fear to stop you from speaking up about what's going on with incarceration. Your brothers and sisters are being tortured, and the best weapon to get you to not care about that is to either distract you with entertainment or to somehow tell you that it has nothing to do with you. That, oh, they did that to those people because those people are criminals. Whenever a black man was or black woman has been lynched in the past, most of the time it was because they identified that person as a criminal. If you take away all the criminals from lynching, you wouldn't have that many lynches left, because white people didn't lynch you just because you were black. They always found a reason to hate you. They always found a reason that you were a bad person, because they didn't lynch their maid, they didn't lynch their nanny who was watching their kids. They didn't lynch people like that. They only lynched the black people who didn't behave in the way that they thought was most appropriate, and therefore they identified that person as a criminal. And that happens to this day. It doesn't mean every criminal in the it doesn't mean every person in the incarceration system or in the justice system is innocent. Nobody says that, but it does mean that when you have scenarios where somebody can get, say, 70 years in prison for a very tiny offense that a lot of white boys can get away with every day, that's a problem. If you want to find people smoking crack and using cocaine, go to Wall Street. There's a whole bunch of guys doing that, and I guarantee you they won't serve a day in prison for that. So that the incarceration issue is just one of many things that has to be addressed. I think that to some extent many of our black celebrities have abandoned us, and this goes back to what I was saying about Damon Dash. That in his own way, and I don't know why he's doing. I don't know all of his incentives and motivations. I did hear from someone who's working with Dame, and Dame and I are going to talk pretty soon, because I think we should talk. I mean, I've been talking about him, and and I, if you're talking that much about somebody, you should meet them. So we're going to talk. But I can't really at this point vouch for who he is as a person. But at the same time, I can say that I just like the fact that he was trying to do something, and that's what we need. We need black people that are just going to try to do something. Just get in there and try. Don't be afraid. Don't live your life in fear. I guarantee you, if you're courageous and you are intelligent and you are spiritually in tune with what your goals are, everything will work itself out. We have, and I'll say this and I'm done. We are in a in somewhat I would call almost like we kind of dealt with what I would call the dark ages of black history, or a part of the dark ages. The dark ages because we've had so much incarceration that a lot of our children are growing up without their fathers anywhere in the vicinity, because a lot of dads are locked up in the criminal justice system. A man who is dealing with the justice system, dealing with economic struggles that come with that, etc. It's hard for him to be a father and a husband. It's not an excuse, but if you look at any data, it'll show you that men are more likely to be married when they're economically prosperous. They're more likely to be good heads of households when they're together economically and otherwise. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with media that's constantly promoting black ignorance, that's constantly selling black self-destruction to your kids. There's nothing about getting high and drunk all the time and killing other black people, toting a gun on your hip, and or getting involved in criminal activity that is going to lead to a healthy, prosperous life. We're dealing with black unemployment that really hasn't gotten better. Even under a black president. In fact, some people say our economic situation has actually gotten worse under Obama. And there are some of us who think that Obama is not accountable at all for this. And I don't want to get into that debate, but I would say that if he was a white president and things were this bad, people would probably say something. So we're kind of going through the dark ages. I think that right now we have an opportunity to be a part of a renaissance of black intellectualism at all levels. It doesn't mean you have to be a Rhodes Scholar. It doesn't mean you have to have a PhD. It doesn't mean you have to go to college. It just means you have to be a person that just wants to be better. I don't really evaluate you based on where you are or where you're at or what you've done. I evaluate you based on what you're trying to become, where you're trying to go. So if you write me a message, and I'm gonna tell you, first of all, I gotta just say thank you so much to everybody who sent all the love, since the interview. I mean, I get a lot of messages every day just in general, but this has been the first time in a while where every message is pretty consistent, pretty positive, and it's been a ton of them. And I'll tell you this: I don't care if you send me an email with the most broken English ever, like to where you even read on a third grade level. The fact that you're emailing me, the fact that you are trying to connect to what I'm talking about, the fact that you are working to improve yourself, that makes me respect you so much. That makes me respect you more than a lot of the backward thinking, coonish scholars that I've met. I'm talking about folks that really think that assimilation is the pathway to black success. People who don't care about the community. I know people like that who've got PhDs, MDs, JDs, and all these other letters behind their name, who own businesses, have millions of dollars, who are as worthless to the black community as a bucket of spit. Okay, so where you're at, how much money you got, how much education you have, that doesn't play a role in how I evaluate you. I evaluate you based on the person that you're seeking to become. And I just want to encourage everybody every day when you get up, try to be something better. Try to be something stronger and more capable than you were the day before. And do not be afraid. Love yourself, love your people, and don't be ashamed of it. So that's all I want to say. In case you want to check out this latest audio lecture that I created, how to build your own black empire and not just bow to a white one. I made the link pretty easy. You can go to blackfinancialaddiction.com. Blackfinancialaddiction.com. Black Financial Addiction is the name of a film project that we're putting together at Your Black World Films, and I'll keep you posted. We also have a film coming out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street, which tells the story of Black Wall Street but goes even further. It flips it into the future of building Black Wall Streets in our own community. So I'll tell you more about that at a later date. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please stay strong, be blessed. I'm gone. Peace.